Test check, test check, test check, test check.
Let's go ahead and get the technical difficulties segment out of the way before our guest arrives. Hold on, I'm gonna turn on my big screen because I can't see shit. My glasses are all tangled in my headphones. This is a disgrace, isn't it? Biscuit, are you gonna sleep through this one again?
Oh.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, how's everybody doing?
Good. Did y'all watch Only Murders in the Building?
No, is it good?
It was good, and it's funny because it's about a podcast, of course, which makes sense since everybody's got a podcast these days.
That's with,
again, I need to stress, we had a podcast 10 years ago. Okay.
What were you saying, Jay?
That's with Steve Martin, right?
Yeah.
I've seen the preview for that.
And Martin.
So you have or haven't seen it?
Oh yeah,
no, I have seen it. I just haven't seen the latest one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you haven't seen the finale?
Yes. So I'm eager to see that. Okay, so but I hear a knocking. Biscuit, will you go get the door? Wake up.
Oh, poor Biscuit.
I mean, come on. All right, let's let him in. Hello, Alex.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
Good. This is Alex. Is it Koral?
That's right. Yep, like the animal.
Alex Koral from ShipCompliant, of course, the very well-known company that helps mostly wineries, but really all alcohol beverage companies stay compliant with the states and be able to ship DTC to consumer. Am I saying that right, Alex? That's my understanding of it?
Yeah, that's more or less it. Yeah, Solo ShipCompliant. Okay. We are that software solution, cloud-based offerings for the beverage alcohol industry to manage those interstate direct consumer shipments and interstate distributions as well. So we try to get our hands on a lot of stuff.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for being on, Alex. My name's Harry Shoemaker. I'm the publisher, and this is head of security, Biscuit. And of course, we have Jenn Litz and Jordan Driggers on the phone as well. So thanks for being on, and I'll hand it off to Litz for some questions.
Hey, Alex. So I saw you speak at CBC last month, and for those who weren't there, I mean, you had two sessions, basically the same topics, right? But two packed rooms. But no, I mean, just to underscore the point that direct to consumer is a super hot topic and all the developments that have happened in the last year. So can you briefly walk our audience through the states where it's legal for beer to be shipped directly versus wine, right? Because that's sort of foundational here, and why that discrepancy exists.
Yeah, certainly. As you say, this is just such a very hot topic. I think that there's so much interest in this. The beer industry is looking at the success of the wine industry. They want to get a little access to it. And then, of course, the COVID crisis has really put this in perspective as well, of how many people need remote access to alcohol, how difficult it can be. And, I think people are butting up against these laws. They don't, frankly, necessarily realize we're out there. And so, as you know, there are a lot of restrictions out there when it comes to direct-to-consumer shipping. And I do want to emphasize, we really are talking about direct-to-consumer shipping. So this is where a sale is fulfilled through a carrier, a third-party service who will pick up a brown box that's taped and packaged and carry it perhaps across state borders, perhaps within the same state, to the consumer's residence. So it's not necessarily a tasting room sale. It's not really a sale at a local retailer. It really involves a specific act of shipping it across some distance. When it comes to what is available for the beer industry, as you say, it's really pretty limited. We're really looking at about 10 states. Here I can quick rattle them off: Alaska, Kentucky, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Virginia, and the District of Columbia all have some sort of remote interstate direct-to-consumer shipping permissions that they allow breweries to engage in, and to a limited degree off-premise retailers as well. But this is, really contrasted with the wine industry, which has now 47 different states. Much easier to say that it's just Utah, Mississippi, and Delaware, where the wine industry, where winemakers cannot do direct-to-consumer shipping. So there really is a lot of catch-up for the beer industry to get into. When it comes to why is there a limited map, there's a lot of history here and a lot of background policy that gets into it. And frankly, the real reason is that the wine industry has been so much more focused on this, so much more active in passing legislation, passing laws to allow them to do direct-to-consumer shipping, as opposed to other areas of the beverage alcohol industry, not just beer, but spirits, retailers, importers. A lot of people face limitations that the wineries do not. And again, this is because the wine industry has really been focused on this the last 10, 20, really 40 years of trying to expand these permissions and engaging in a lot of lobbying efforts, a lot of grassroots reach out to consumers to expand this legislation, expand where the laws are. There's no real specific reasons, no legal reasons that beer or spirits cannot enjoy this same market. It's just a matter of those industries not necessarily being at the table when these laws were being changed over the last 10 years.
I think it's interesting that I was going to say, there really is no legal reason why beer should be this far behind wine, and I would put forth except that beer is, wine is so much more expensive per its weight. And so shipping makes more sense with wine. But, that old adage is starting to be less and less true when you look at some of these craft brewers, these real high end craft brewers that kind of have the same margins per their weight than as a nice wine. So,
yeah, certainly. Yeah. And those are some of the more policy considerations out there. Of course, the craft beer industry has been really focused over the last many years on improving tasting room sales, improving local self-distribution, removing franchise rules. So I don't want to give the impression that they're, sitting on their hands at all. It's just they have not been so focused on this area. But that definitely is, to that point, Harry, that wine has a lot better maybe margins when it comes to direct-to-consumer shipping. If the average bottle price for a wine shipment is $40 per bottle, so you buy a case that's $400, you don't necessarily mind spending $40 in shipping. Beer, not necessarily the case, but you do know correctly there are a lot of improvements there. There's a lot more reduction in costs that's happening. So I think that this is a great moment for breweries to really look at what's available and try to see if this makes sense for them.
And do you think, and I was just going to say what Harry said about beer being heavy, right, relative to its
Jen,
price.
I can't let you have that line.
Oh, I know that's Harry's.
Someday we're going to have a ceremony. It's not going to be tomorrow. It may not be next year, but we will have a ceremony. Well, I will pass the beer is heavy relative to its price.
Thank you.
You. And you will be able to use it in speeches publicly. But right now it's trademarked. It's me. And if you say it like you just did, you owe me $100.
Yeah,
we'll talk about
Harry
these
Schumacher.
technicality. We're wasting Alex's time by talking about intercompany politics. Biscuit, you can tell, is bored already. So
anyway, Alex,
go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say what my great master Harry always says, which is beer is heavy. But beyond that, I think there's also a challenge insofar as the powerful, distributors aren't necessarily on board with DTC shipping of beer, where maybe back in the day, the wine wholesalers were the same way. I don't know if they were or not, but is that enough of a hurdle to where maybe it doesn't become like wine in terms of permissibility of shipping? Or do you think the consumer pull is so strong that it's almost inevitable?
I have a lot of faith in consumer pull. That is really where we saw a lot of success in wine shipping. As those bills were passed, there are organizations like Free the Grapes that were all about how to petition your local legislators to pass these laws. And there was absolutely a great amount of fear, of anti-direct consumer shipping beliefs out there brought by wholesalers, by local retailers, by local wineries as well. Everybody's afraid of competition when it comes to this. Though I do feel that the rising tide will lift all boats, and greater access to the national market is better for everyone. But there is a great deal of reticence among some parts of the industry to allow direct-to-consumer shipping. And I think that gets back to that lobbying effort. Again, the wine industry was always at the table, was always very heavily advocating for their side, demonstrating how wineries could pay taxes, could prevent sales to minors, all those fear tactics that were brought out there. They were combating it. And I think that that's really what the beer industry needs now, is some sort of advocacy, some sort of engagement by consumers to say, one, consumers want this. Two, the fear mongering that might be brought up really is just fear mongering and doesn't have any basis in reality, that this can be a healthy and safe and tax paying market. And again, that consumer engagement, trying to get that demand out there. And it will be combating some of those perceptions by wholesalers that are out there. But I think that there are ways to demonstrate that, to expand this market.
And we'll, you mentioned taxes, and a lot of what you covered in the presentation last month was just all of the ins and outs and T's and I's that you have to cross and dot when it comes to shipping. Overall, does more direct shipping for beer, and this may be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, mean more taxes are paid on? Because obviously more taxes being paid is, legislatures tend to like that, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely more taxes being paid. We see a lot more sales into states where there has been direct consumer shipping of wine. We personally have facilitated hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue over the past 10 plus years to various states. It's not to say that those sales might not necessarily have occurred. People could still have gone to local liquor stores, but that's certainly a lot of tax revenue they are getting. And I think that states really need to look at this in not having a legal direct consumer shipping model doesn't mean people are not going to engage in this. It just means that they're going to engage it outside of the laws. And so by creating a legal market for direct consumer shipping, that is how they enable them to collect taxes, enable to get those compliance, good actors in this market, and get taxes that they otherwise would not. There are a lot of claims out there of thousands of illegal shipments and millions in lost tax revenue. The solution to that is to make those shipments legal and to enable the tax to be collected from those shipments.
It's kind of like the cannabis industry,
exactly.
Legalize cannabis, it's happening anyway, so you might as well make it kosher,
Yeah. If I can, editorialize, get on my own personal soapbox, I think looking back to my lesson from the Prohibition days is that, making something illegal doesn't get rid of it. It just enables the criminals to benefit from it. So by bringing it legal, you allow the legal market to benefit from it instead.
Right. Well, kind of switching gears just a little bit. What about this bill to allow USPS to deliver beer, right? I mean, the BA is for it. The wholesaler, MBWA is against it. What do you think are its actual prospects?
I can't necessarily speak to its prospects. I'm not a, congressional tea reader. I am not really involved in those lobbying, but I do see that there are a lot of support for it. It keeps coming back. There is bipartisan support for it. You hear legislators, Congress people saying they want to get it passed. So I'm hopeful for it. I'm bullish for it to pass, but I don't want to say next year or this year when it will pass. It does get to a really interesting part of direct consumer shipping. Everybody, I think, would assume that the Postal Service could do it, but they are prohibited by federal law. And so this bill is trying to amend that to enable the USPS to get involved. And I think that similarly to the beer industry, the USPS is seeing the billions of dollars that are being funneled through legal shipping and, want their hands in it. And I think that they see it as a potential revenue source as the USPS is struggling these days. Of course, on the other hand, there is a lot of logistics that get involved. They may have to buy new trucks that are temperature sensitive.
Refrigerated, right?
Yeah.
That's never going to happen.
No, I mean, I still see those old Jeeps around in the suburbs around here that are like from the 60s.
Doors open.
Yeah, it's a really classic.
I think the real deal there is, I think a lot of people don't understand is, why wouldn't they be able to, that means that the federal government is literally in the beverage distribution business. And that makes the states crazy, and it makes wholesalers crazy, and it makes, so that's obviously a headwind.
Yeah. And again, these are the underlying the fundamental rules coming out of Prohibition. It's all about local control, down to the county level of who can do what. And so this idea of, oh, we're going to allow businesses in other states access, that really gets to the heart of these alcohol laws. But I think that is really a 20th century, even 19th century mindset. We have to acknowledge that there is the internet. There are national sales. People do expect this. And again, if we're just going to shove it into the dark, then it's not going to enable people to follow the laws, pay the taxes that the states want them to.
You know, you also mentioned last month that direct-to-consumer beer sales did get a bump last year, right? Can you quantify that? Was it just in new states that were able to be more permissible with it, or was there just a huge jump in overall sales that way, or how exactly did that play out?
Yeah, there was a little mix of everything there. And I don't necessarily have the data in front of me. I can't spew off a lot of statistics. So a lot of what we saw was much more anecdotal. But, you know, just really the most we saw was just how much more interest there is. We got a lot more breweries calling us up for interest. They're communicating, you know, frankly, doing podcasts like this. There's just so much more awareness and interest in the market, I think, spawned by people's need to buy things remotely and not be able to leave their homes. We did see a few states pass emergency provisions last year, allowing direct-to-consumer shipping. It was all very local and perhaps unconstitutional because of that. We want the national market is kind of the lesson there. Those shipping models did not become permanent anywhere. They were all, I think they've all lapsed in every state. But there were a lot of bills introduced to different states, California, New York, a lot of really big ones we'd like to see crossed off to expand direct-to-consumer shipping of beer. Those didn't pass this year, but we saw a lot of interest. And of course, you know, the consumer demand that has been out there, and we have seen some interest, some peaks in more breweries engaging in it. Again, I just don't have the specific numbers in front of me, but they're out there.
We focused on beer and wine, but it seems like I'm seeing a lot more interest in spirits being purchased through the mail. Are you guys getting more interest from distillers?
Yeah, absolutely. The distillers are very interested in this. We've been engaged with you know, not just BA, but also spirits organizations out there. I think there's a unified front among the spirits industry to really engage, pass these bills, get legislators to change laws out there. And I think that spirits still has to combat that age-old demon rum mentality of, oh, this is extra potent, extra dangerous. We really need control and restrictions on there. But I see a lot more parallels, frankly, between the spirits industry and the wine industry than the beer industry and the wine industry, that there are similar price points. There's similar highly allocated products. You know, if you want that special bourbon in Kentucky that is only sold in 1,000 bottles are made every year, that's really a great source for direct-to-consumer shipments. Whereas beer is a little bit more of an elastic resource, a little bit more available everywhere. So there is absolutely a lot of interest in spirits, and I think that they have a unified front, they have a unified lobbying organization. Really need to engage consumers, make sure that those consumers are talking to legislatures, but there is still those fears of is vodka especially dangerous and shouldn't be shipped because of XYZ reasons.
And I know this isn't really your purview, but is there ever an issue? What about the underage thing? You know, signing for a package, is that not an issue anymore?
No, that's definitely an issue. That will, I think, until the age limits do change one day, and I might personally think that could happen or should happen. I think that is really the most important and basic regulatory requirement that states want to police. There is so much awareness and interest in protecting minors, in preventing sales to minors, and I don't think that will really ever go away as a major concern when it comes to direct-to-consumer shipping, tasting room sales, restaurant sales. It's everywhere. And so that everybody should be very aware of those strictures on not selling to minors, not even providing accidentally to minors. This is why you really need to go with approved licensees, approved carriers. Often they do need to get licensed by the states to prove that they are collecting IDs. They have those services in place. You can never just drop a package of alcohol on a patio. You always need to get that signature. There are states that even require wineries, breweries to do a point of sale age verification. You either get a copy of somebody's ID or you use a public record search to verify that somebody is of that age, of that name, at that address. So yeah, sales to minors is always, and I think will be continually, a very major concern for this industry, and not just direct to consumer shipping, but everybody.
We talked about some of the fears that beer distributors might have. I'm wondering, is direct to consumer shipping, is it like a tasting room where you can actually build a business model out of it? Or is it really more of like a marketing tool where you can, ultimately go to a distributor and say, hey, look, this is what I've done in this. Do you see anybody actually creating a model out of this in beer?
I think that both models could exist. It really depends on the individual brewery and what they're doing. Within the wine industry, just to bring back those parallels, right, we do see some wineries out there really focusing on direct-to-consumer model. The consideration there is, do they have the price point? Can they really, are they making enough per shipment out there to really focus on that alone? And you really need to be a highly allocated product, very limited production, something that people are seeking out and trying to get. So if there is a brewery making, the best sour beers out there and nobody is even close, they could perhaps work with a direct consumer model, again, hopefully soon with a more national focus, many more states available to them. But I think that there is, for beer especially, I do believe that this can be a great marketing tool, a great way to expand your presence and get more interest out there. I think we again, going back to the wine industry, we have definitely seen many wineries out there use direct consumer shipping data to engage with distributors, to prove, yes, we have a market in this state. Yes, we can sell here. And I think they could absolutely be the same for breweries as well. So many may struggle to get the attention of distributors. You say, we made X money last year in direct consumer shipments alone. You get us in stores, we will sell. I think that is a great advertisement for breweries. And we do see, like I said, again, it's this rising tide lifts all boats. It's those sales really engage and they work hand in hand. Is if you have a 3-tier distribution model, maybe you reach out to consumers in those states and say, do you know that we have this limited release? You might want to be part of our club where a few times a year you get the special beer that is not widely distributed. And that encourages them to go back into the liquor stores and buy the 6-packs and cases still.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to take myself off mute, but I'm still thinking about the U.S. Postal Service. I just can't imagine they collecting signatures. I guess they do certified mail, so they have the capability. Well, anyway, that's cool. I'm just curious about this, but like, if let's say you engage with the supplier, a brewery or winery, and then you start, explaining, and then they're like, "Oh shit, I don't want to pay all those taxes. We've been shipping in that state for years." You don't want to answer that question. I want to know which of these suppliers they are.
Yeah, certainly not naming any names. No, I think that there is, we by far see much more interest in compliance, in following the rules, in being a good player than in not. And I think really when we do explain the rules, there's more surprise that they could get away with it and that those other services are out there. So no, I think generally there is a lot more interest in paying the taxes and following the rules because, breweries, wineries are paying taxes anyway. They're paying it to their home state. They're paying it to the federal government. This isn't anything new, and it's certainly manageable. It can be expensive. There are a lot of rules out there, but frankly, that's why a service like ours exists, is to help demystify this, to help streamline compliance, to make it easy to file taxes and much more manageable so that you can really focus on what you want to do. You can make better beer, you can sell to more states and not have to worry about these troubles. And it really is beneficial to follow the rules because the risks of non-compliance, the potential penalties, potential losses of license are real and much more damaging than I think paying a little bit of taxes that you frankly owe anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few, like you said, bad apples out there. The way I see it is that the brewery people that I know, they either are staunch taxpayers or they're just kind of, they don't take it that seriously. And I don't even think they know they have a license, so you get to kind of run the gambit there. I remember when ShipCompliant was founded, that's how old I am. And I can't remember the guy's name, but what's that?
Jason?
Yes, I think it was Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember talking to him about this, and I said, man, that sounds like a great business, but it sounds like also a horrible business. And when I say that, I mean, I said, wow, there is a huge need for that. And that's a great idea, but wow, just the execution has just got to be, I mean, you guys have, you've been doing it for so long now, you got it down, but
yeah.
I just can't imagine. It's not just 50 laws, by the way. There's layers upon layers, and there's counties, and there's a lot of, it's just, what a nightmare, what a paperwork nightmare.
All the way down, but it employs lawyers like me and keeps me out of insurance law, so I'm happy for it, and happy to help explain things. And I do think that we got a great product and really built out well to provide those services. So yeah, we're happy to take those burdens off of our clients' hands.
Is everyone at ShipCompliant a lawyer?
Yeah, so we're part of a larger company, Sovos, that does a lot of business to government support. We were really involved within sales tax, international VAT tax, 1099 reporting. So there really is a lot to it. And actually, most of our employees, I think, are much more focused on computer development, software coders, building out the services we provide. But we do have a large set of lawyers who are investigating laws all around the world of what's out there.
One more good company there, because you're talking about, all of this tech, right? How do the Drizzlies of the world, if at all, interact with this space? Because it's not DTC in the sense that we're talking about, right? But maybe it kind of normalizes that a little bit more, right? So how do Drizly and those kinds of platforms interplay with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And frankly, this is why I always like to start out things by saying I'm talking about direct-to-consumer shipping, as it is this use of a carrier, because there are so many facets of the direct-to-consumer model. Tasting rooms, to-go sales, even just off-premise retailers are doing direct-to-consumer sales. And so I do think, I agree with you. I think that Drizly does normalize the ideas of buying online and getting this connection for consumers to search out the products they want. So Drizly actually partners with local retailers. So you're not necessarily buying from the suppliers. The suppliers may have some interest there, but you're not buying from them. You're buying from a local retailer. And Drizly will set out, here are 5 local retailers around you. These are the products that they offer. These are the prices that they set. And these are the ones who then can make the sale and fulfill. So when you make a purchase through Drizly, you are actually ultimately buying it through the retailer. And if you talk to Drizly, they are very clear. They do not sell alcohol. They do not store alcohol. They do not set any prices. They are this separate service out there, providing a marketplace for retailers to connect to local consumers. And so you're ultimately, again, buying from the local retailer. The local retailer is the party who's driving it to your house, doing that delivery. But it does often get clumped in with all other sorts of direct consumer shipping. And I think then, people can consider that if they can do it, then why can't a brewery in a different state, a winery in a different state do this as well? And we agree. It's very manageable and available out there to get your licenses, to pay your taxes, and to abide by those rules. It's just, again, focusing on who's actually making the sale and who's actually fulfilling the purchase.
Yeah, there's definitely some things to be worked out in some states about that. We wrote about it today. Just in Texas, they're like, well, this part's legal, but this part might not be, and this part might, and then you've got the slotting fee issue with the federal government, which is a very real thing. But that law was written before computers were even around. And so is buying space on a website that takes orders a slotting fee? I mean,
Texas says yes.
Texas says yes, but California may say no. I mean, that's the thing, is that in other words, you're in the perfect, being a beverage. If I could come back, I should tell my sons, be a beverage alcohol lawyer or a cannabis lawyer. because you're going to be, you and your grandchildren are going to be set. You'll have career security. Good Lord. I love it though. It's security for us too. Don't get me wrong, Alex. There's a lot to it. I was like, oh, you write about beer, but it sounds like a lot of fun. It's like, really, I read a lot of legal documents. I bet, I swear, I think I could pass the Texas bar at this point. I've read so many. Maybe not. But well, shit, we've kept you too long. But thank you, Alex, for being on. That's very interesting. It's we're doing kind of a series on the technical issues around beverage alcohol and shipping and ordering and compliance and blah blah blah. And so we were really glad to get you on and kind of explain what you do and kind of sort all this out. It's gonna get sorted out. It's just going to take longer than everybody thinks it's going to take, and that's my advice as an old man in the beer industry. So
yeah, it's, maybe don't hold your breath quite, but I think that we're on the track towards expanding this, and I think consumers want it, breweries want it. It's just a matter of figuring out how to expand it. And I think, to your point, is relieving some of the unawareness and ignorances out there. I mean, before I got in this industry, I didn't know that there were all these restrictions out there, and tried to buy alcohol online and couldn't, and was confused. And so it's just a matter of informing people, and I'm happy to do that anytime you want. So thanks again.
Great. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you for drinking beer, and we'll see you next time. Take care.